We're going to do a very quick look at a couple of tools that you'll need to use when you're doing basic hero shots for your boards. This is actually the easiest part of the process. Actually, it's not a huge amount that you have to do. So ideally, we've gone over it in class the other day, what the hero shots are. And this is an image here of a pair of trainers out in the street of Belfast. Now, the setup of this image here isn't necessarily indicative of what you'll be doing with your kettles and toasters, for example, but what I'm going to do is use the image just to basically show you the basics behind the tools that you'll need to use when doing hero shots. So if you have a look at some of these here that we've got, these are all quite nice. This one here is quite a nice product shot because it's showing the product in the focus in the foreground. The background is kind of blurred out a little bit, so it's like less obvious. And this is more of the focus here, so your eye isn't drawn to all the stuff that's going on in the background here. It's just more information here to keep your attention. And then where we've got blur, we've got the logo, which is nice and small in the corner. It's not overpowering. Another logo down here, and a little bit of text on the bottom. So these are balanced well. They don't overpower the main image. Okay, so that's important, because sometimes if these are too big, it drowns everything out and it makes it too busy and too complicated. And this blur is a nice thing you can put in quite easily, just to give it a little bit of depth of field, really. So that's a nice example. There's all kinds on here. These images are all actually on your Facebook page. This one was Vicky's from last year that she did, like you, but she's just basically put a bit of a blur in the background using the blur tool, and just makes this the focus, and this is more complementary. This is context, and then she has a logo in the corner down here, although she's made a few mistakes cutting out the Kenwood. I think it's best in your case that you come up with your own logos this year and things like that, so that's very important to do. Now, if we have a look at the trainer example, which was this one here. So we're going to go to Adobe and just open this up. Now, there's a couple of tools I would use. Now, ideally I would have used this as a draft, because when we zoom into this, you can already see, actually, if we zoom in quite closely, it's going to get pixelated because it's taken from a phone camera. But already I can kind of see there when I look at this, there's a portion of the image that I want to keep. Now, as a draft, that would be good, because I could say, well, that's maybe kind of the frame that I want. So I'll go back out and retake this photo with that in mind and zoom in a bit more. So then you've got more image to play with, as it were. But we can actually make this look quite good quite quickly. Down the left-hand side, you've got the crop tool, which is here. And, you know, we can basically use this to select a portion of the image. The hero shot doesn't have to be A3. It can be thin and long if you want, like that. That can be quite nice. And I'm going to try and keep a nice balance. So I've got a nice bit of distance between the shoe and the edge here, and the same here. And we're going to move this into here like this. Right, so I'm sort of just cropping this down, and I think that's quite nice. I don't want too much of the leg because it's the trainers that I'm trying to sell. So I can hit enter there. That's all good. And then if I bring this in, you can start to see that the quality gets lost a bit here now because it's off a phone camera. But already we've taken it from a very busy image with too much information. We've just cut it down nicely to these trainers. The next thing you can do, you know about, is levels. So you can bring the levels up, and you can just increase the blacks a little bit more, just to add a bit of tone, and you can maybe add a bit of white, as long as bleach it out too much if you're careful. Or maybe adjust the grey slightly in the middle, maybe something like that. Let's check the preview. Not much difference in it, to be honest, but we'll go with it anyway. And that's the second step. Now the third step might be that we want to blur out this background a bit, because there's too much going on here. My eye is distracted by this. So what we're going to do is go to the blur tool here, and you can change the settings here. The strength is here and the type of brush is here. I've got it on like a medium hardness. Now the difference is I've got a drawing tablet, which means that I can adjust the pressure of this. But either way, we'll just start to work away, and you can start to see already here in the background, I'm sort of fading out a lot of this information that's just really not relevant to the picture at all. And I can just keep working over that over and over and over again. I'm making this quite strong because this is the furthest point away. Now with a soft brush here, it'll actually give more of a faded line. It won't be like such a heavy line. So if I press here, the pixels will kind of blur towards the subject, which is kind of what I want, because I don't want it to have a heavy contrast between the blur and the not blur. I want to build it up. So I always use a soft brush really when you're trying to blend things which are far away and close up. That's not too bad like that, that's okay. I'm not going to do down the bottom here because technically that would be in focus, and I don't really want to do too much of the left here because that would technically be in focus as well to a point. I can make the brush smaller and just come in and just gently around the edges of the legs there. I could do a little bit just to tidy up these bits here. Okay, so yeah, that's alright, it's not too bad. I think that's probably about enough. Now the next bit is, if we zoom out and have a look at that, I've got nice depth of field, which means I'm not actually paying much attention to the background too much. I could increase that if I want. I could put on another layer and then blur it out more, but I think at the minute it will do. The next thing is I could darken some of this down a little bit. So if we go to the burn tool, which is here, this one, there's an exposure. Exposure is how much of it burns, and it asks you whether you want to burn things which are dark, in other words shadows, or things which are light, in other words highlights. Now it's not an exact science. A lot of the time you mess about with this to work out which one is the best one, and of course you can change your brush between hard and soft. I tend to use soft brushes here so you can blur it and blend it, and I'm going to just work with mid-tones, greys, and just see how that works out. If I go back and try shadows and then try highlights and see which one works the best. Highlights is a bit too grey, so we'll probably go with mid-tones for now. Okay, I'm just going to darken the edge of this board just very, very gently. I'm not even actually drawing on the page, I'm kind of drawing off the page a little bit. Okay, like that. Just darken that down. Not a lot. Maybe a little bit around here as well. And all I'm doing is I'm just changing the tonal values just ever so slightly on the image, and what it's actually doing is it's making the focus of the image being this bit here much lighter and this much darker, so your eye tends to sort of look at this much less. A couple little dabs in there because this part of the church was quite bright, so I'm just sort of gently toning that down. So now this has all gone very, very dark, and now we're looking here at the trainers on their own. This is much nicer. Now your logo can then go up in the corner here. So if we come back to the internet and turn this on, I guess this would be Adidas trainers. So we can find a pair of Adidas trainer logo or Adidas logo, and we can put that on when the internet decides to actually load up, which for some reason it's not. Let's have a look. Turn the internet off and we'll turn it back on again. We'll try. But anyway, so if we think about the strap line for Adidas, I think is all day I dream about sport, so we can bring that in here. Actually, no, we'll go back to the internet, use that. Right, okay, so if I type in here Adidas logo, now you don't actually have to use logos and existing brands. You can make up your own brand, which I think is good to do. So we'll pick this one here because it's quite a large amount of pixels, and we'll open this up and we'll have a look here. What else is cool? That's quite nice. Some of this is good. Alright, so if we grab this image, which is enormous, it's going to be way too big for what we need, really, in all fairness. But anyway, we'll use it all the same. File new, and we can bring that in here, paste that in. Now I can cut out a lot of this stuff. I can cut out all this background here by using the magic wand tool. So just select that. It's on 100, so it's quite heavy. Hold down shift, I can select the bits in the middle like this, and I can select the inside of the R to get rid of that. Control and X will cut away all of that, and it will just leave this image. Now I think this is quite large, so we'll just shrink this down a little bit, probably to something like that. We'll drag this into the picture. Yep. Now, like I said before, we don't want the logo to be too big and overpowering. Bottom right corner is quite nice down here. Top left corner could be quite nice as well. We'll just stick it up there for now, and we'll put a little bit of a strap line in there. I don't know, we'll just put something like keep running. make it white as well, because that would be useful. And we'll make that much smaller. Keep running. And we'll probably put that to Arial for now. It's not probably the right text to use, but it'll do. And then you probably want to put some other little bits and pieces down in the corner, some smaller logos maybe. Yeah, maybe something like that. So if we now come back to the original image that we had, which was the trainer one, which was in which folder? This one. And we bring this up. And we call that, name that slightly differently. We'll copy this over. Open with Photoshop. Let's open the same one. Alright, so we'll open that up with Photoshop as well to compare the two. No, it's not going to work. Save as a Photoshop file. Yeah, that's good. We'll try again to open this up, see if it will work to compare the two. Right. So this is the original image that we had here. And this is the one that we've got now. So if we just have a look at that. So yeah, okay. So we've taken this to what was a pretty standard image of someone stood in a pair of trainers. And we've mucked around with that a little bit, and now we've turned it into something which looks a bit more like an advertisement. It's a bit more lazy, a bit more casual, because the focus is here. The positioning of the feet says quite a lot. So all I'm saying is those tools are very, very basic, very, very easy, and it's not hard to turn a pretty standard image into something which looks a little bit more promotional. But have a look at images online that do the same thing. Try and copy their style. Try and work out the tools in Photoshop over here that can help you do some of those things. And yeah, and just pull it all together. Good stuff. See you later.